question for you. Why don't you go to China and India and Russia and pull these stunts there? Why is it only the safe places like the UK that Just Stop Oil chuck this stuff around at major sporting events and things that people love? Let me tell you why. Because there's a moral cowardice at the heart of what you do. It's a bit like Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg, you never see her in Beijing ranting away about the Chinese government. Even though the worst polluters in the world are the Chinese. So the people causing the real damage on pollution, none of your protesters have the gumption or the moral guts to go and wreck the lives of those people in those countries, because you know what would happen.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about this video with Piers Morgan going off on these climate activists, more specifically this group, Just Stop Oil, which has been ravaging Europe, the UK, I believe more specifically, with their climate protest antics. Now, just a couple days ago, I did a video where I showed that there are law-abiding citizens in the UK who are pissed off and fed up with these climate activists in their antics, which includes vandalizing public property, vandalizing historic paintings, okay, and fountains and tourist attractions. They're gluing themselves to the street to stop traffic. Citizens, law-abiding citizens, are getting fed up, and they're taking matters into their own hands because police don't seem to want to lock up these agents of chaos. Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. People are fed up, okay, including Piers Morgan, who's about to go off on this climate activist, again, from the Just Stop Oil group, which, again, is not great marketing, okay? I'm not sure anybody agrees that we need to stop oil altogether, okay? I'm pretty sure most people don't agree with that, but hey, this is what they call themselves. So we're going to get into it. But before I get into it, I just want to let you guys know, if you like my channel and you support my channel, you can check out my merch, including my racist mug, which is a daily reminder of the 2023 definition of racist according to the left, which is anybody who disagrees with the Democrat Party. Or you can check out my shirt like this one, my base shirt. You can check it out at my website, gforemanbcp.com. Get 20% off using discount code TEAMBCP. So without further ado, let's get it.
Well, joining me now is environmental campaigner Donnachadh McCarthy, Just Stop Oil spokesperson Chloe Naldrett, and the former England Test cricket legend, Sir Geoffrey Boycott. So welcome to all of you. Well, let me start with Chloe Naldrett. Chloe, even the people who were funding you, even the millionaires behind a lot of this stuff,
that's something that, again, we don't really talk about enough, okay? You got millionaires and billionaires, liberal ones, funding these protesters, right? That's why they don't have jobs, okay? Because they're getting funded by millionaires and billionaires who, by the way, virtue signal about climate change, but then fly around in private jets, right? They emit the most carbon dioxide into our atmosphere, but yet, again, they're trying to lecture everybody else and to make your quality of life worse, again, and funding these agents of chaos.
Think of it. They're sick of the performative stuff, the attention-seeking, the wrecking of stuff that other people enjoy. They recognise none of it is turning anyone's opinion. They're as sick of it as I am. Why do you all keep doing this?
Well, thanks for having me on today, Piers. What you've just done, beautiful summary of the actions that we've been doing over the last year, of course, has looked a lot at how we protest, but you haven't mentioned a word about why. Why is it that a bunch of really ordinary, community-minded, law-abiding people are...
Law-abiding, right? Law-abiding. I'm not sure what's law-abiding about vandalism, okay? I'm not sure what's law-abiding about blocking traffic. I'm not sure what's law-abiding about any of the things that these people do, but this is how delusional they are, right? This is the world that they're living in here. They think that everything they do is just simply because they're doing it to save the world, okay? It reminds me of other woke extremists as well, too, who use violence and who are agents of chaos in order to achieve political goals like BLM, right? They think that, oh, it's totally fine to be violent and to riot and to destroy things because, hey, we're fighting for black people's rights, even though black people have, you know, every right that everybody else has, right? Or, you know, the LGBTQ activists, right? Where, again, they think that they should be able to just get away with anything because they're LGBTQ. Again, all these people that are woke think that they're above law-abiding, normal citizens.
Taking this kind of action. And the answer is because we're in a climate emergency and our government is not taking it seriously. This action at Lord's today isn't the biggest climate story of the day. The biggest climate story of the day is the fact that the government's own climate change committee, which is headed by the Conservative peer Lord Debon, has found that the government's net zero strategy is failing on every single one of its targets. That means they're not keeping us safe now, and they are not keeping us safe in the future.
You know what? Come on shows like this and debate that. I'll invite you on to have a proper debate about that.
Invite us on, Piers.
My message to you...
We'll come on any time, but the reality is the only way we get on is by doing these actions.
No, it's not the only way you get on. That's a complete myth. There have been regular debates on shows like mine that don't involve a reaction to the kind of ridiculous nonsense we saw today. The truth is, you've become a group of wreckers. You just like wrecking things for the sake of wrecking.
Yeah, they're agents of chaos, right? This is why I call them that. They just want to cause chaos. They just want to make your life as difficult as possible, okay? Because they feel like they're saving the world. And that's just not true. These people have been lied to. They've been brainwashed. They've been tricked to think that what they're doing is righteous when it's not, right? It's just not. These people need to go to China. Go to China and to do all that stuff. I mean, they're the biggest emitter on the planet. Go there. Show up to Xi Jinping's palace, right? And protest there and see what happens, okay? And that's probably why they won't go, because they know what's going to happen. If China does not lower their emissions, anything that we do in the West doesn't mean a damn thing, right? So they need to go to China with all this.
Nobody is coming along to your cause because of these stupid stunts.
Piers.
We all think you're a bunch of puerile, spoilt brats who are just going out of their way to cause other people inconvenience and ruin their fun. That is the reality.
Well,
you might well have serious... Hang on, let me finish. You might well... Hang on. You might well have a serious point to make, or many serious points to make. I might well agree with some of those points. I probably do. But you know what? The more of these things you do are things that I enjoy and my friends enjoy and my family enjoys and other people with their friends and families enjoy, the more families that you stop in getting to work or getting their kids to school for important exams or getting to funerals or whatever it may be, the more you do that, the more we hate you. And the more we don't want to have anything to do with you or give you a platform to talk about the stuff that actually is more important, as you rightly say. Why don't you just stop the stupid stunts? Stop wrecking people's lives.
This won't stay in the news and it won't stay in the conversation. And perhaps what we're doing by interrupting the things that you need to do that are important to you, that you love, is we're making you think about everything that we're standing to lose. No, you're not.
You're making me think you're a bunch of morons.
Lord Debon said today...
You're not, Chloe.
Lord Debon said
Chloe,
today...
you're not making me think about your cause. Nobody at Lord's today was thinking, God, you know what? This is about climate change. We saw the orange powder. The whole crowd started booing. Unfortunately... England's wicketkeeper, Johnny Bairstow.
Are you going to let me talk?
Actually, no, I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to go to Sir Geoffrey Boycott.
That's hilarious. Right, that's super hilarious. He's right. But Piers, he's 100% right. These protests, even people that agree with him, right, they say, well, climate change is an existential threat, right? The world's going to end in 5 years, right? And this is what they say, which hasn't happened, okay? But even if you think that, right, like, are you making people agree with you when you make their lives more difficult? When you block traffic, people have emergencies, people going to work, people trying to live their lives. When you disrupt people's lives over your grievances, I'm not sure if you're helping people actually agree with you and to get on board and support your movement. I actually think that you're making people who otherwise would agree with you hate you, just like Piers Morgan said. Because, again, now you become an agent of chaos. Now you're making everybody else's life much harder, right? Again, if climate change is going to make people's lives harder, okay, in the future, why make my life harder now? Okay, it seems to me that it's damn that you do, damn you don't at this point. because you're making my life harder and you're not going to do anything about it. You're not going to change anything. And I guess my life is going to be harder in the future too because of climate change, according to these people, right? That's the argument. I'm just saying they're making enemies, right? They're not making friends. It sounds to me like Piers Morgan is somebody who probably does believe in climate change. He probably believes that it's man-made. He probably thinks that we should do something about it. But he's annoyed as hell by these activists that just are disrupting everybody else's lives, okay?
Geoffrey, you're a cricket legend.
Yes.
You know, I remember back in the 70s, a pitch being dug up at Headingley, which wrecked a test match in a different kind of protest. But this series of attacks on stuff that most Britons just like watching, the snooker, the cricket, the Chelsea Flower Show, what do you make of it? Does it convince you that you should take this kind of thing seriously?
No, I watched it today and I just started laughing. I thought the England players did well, and with the Aussie batsmen, they made a barrier at one end for one of them, so they couldn't get through. And then the staff came on and grabbed him, one rugby tackled him. Johnny picked up the other one, and the orange powder, it actually went on the ground about 8 or 9, 10 yards away from the pitch.
Yeah.
So it didn't do any damage whatsoever. And I just laughed. I thought it was foolish. I just thought it was stupid.
Exactly, which is everybody else thinks, right? When you glue your hand to pavement, people think that you're stupid, okay? It reminds me of the scientists that decided it would be a good idea to glue their hands to the floor of a factory for Volkswagen.
Now 3 p.m. we have occupied the Porsche pavilion for about 24 hours now. We have set some demands to the CEO of Volkswagen, so we have demanded the CEO to Volkswagen to come here to listen to our demands in front of the press and to subscribe with the demands of our campaign. So first of all, publicly declare that the goal of staying below 1.5 degrees of temperature increase from pre-industrial level is unachievable. Second, decarbonize the transport sector, and in particular issue a public statement in support of the introduction of a 100 km/h speed limit on motorways. Germany is the only country in the world, I think, that for whatever reasons don't have any speed limit. Reintroduce the €9 tickets to travel on public transport all around Germany. And then we also applied the third demand of our campaign to the specific situation of Volkswagen. So the third demand is about debt cancellation for countries most exposed to the climate emergency. So we demand that Volkswagen, who for sure hold assets and bonds from countries that are exposed to the climate emergency, we demand Volkswagen to cancel this debt.
Yeah, so what ended up coming out of that protest, right? Nothing, except these scientists ended up embarrassing themselves after they used the bathroom on themselves and then wanted to complain about it because they were left alone in this factory with their hands glued to the floor with no food and no ability to actually do anything about it. Again, it's just hilarious, okay? They were begging for a bowl, right, to use the bathroom in. It's just... Again, it's just embarrassing. It really is.
I completely agree. Let me come to you then, Donnachadh. I've always felt you're a more reasonable talker about this kind of thing. I know you've had a long-time commitment to it. I want to read you again what Trevor Nielsen said to the Sunday Times at the weekend, because it was really interesting. He said, I absolutely believe this kind of thing's become now counterproductive. I just feel like it has to be said by somebody that was involved in the beginning of what it's become. This is going to require an immensely difficult navigation of the middle, and the activists are ostracizing the exact people they need to engage. They're creating an excuse for people to stay on the sidelines. Blocking bridges is a lot easier than building bridges, and that is what we need to do if we're going to succeed. Now, I read that, and I thought, good on you. Good on you for not being intransigent. Good on you for recognizing what I've been saying repeatedly and others, which is it's not the cause itself that is causing all the friction and the problem. It is the methodology of forcing people to come along the road with this cause. And if you change the methodology, you might well bring more people with you. Do you accept that?
No, I don't, because what he's actually saying is contradicting what has happened in protest movements over the centuries. What has happened...
Tell me one movement that's involved systematic wrecking of things that British people enjoy doing.
I think if you take a step back and you look at the protests that Just Stop Oil have done, they've been minor things.
But they're not minor, though.
They are. 10 minutes with a bit of dust is minor. However,
it's minor, right? It's minor. Okay, blocking a road is minor. Interrupting the opening pitch of some sports match or whatever, some opening ceremony, interrupting that, minor stuff, right? Just minor stuff. Okay, being agents of chaos is minor, right? Like going into stores, vandalizing, knocking over milk, okay, vandalizing paintings, putting, charcoal or whatever into public fountains, minor stuff, okay, minor according to this guy.
The really interesting thing about today's protest is what it brought attention to in the media. The media this afternoon is talking about who is sponsoring the cricket match today. It's JP Morgan. JP Morgan is the world's largest funder of fossil fuel destruction.
I've not heard anybody talking about JP Morgan.
Yeah, nobody's talking about JP Morgan. They're all talking about you idiots, okay? And they're not agreeing with you. Again, they're actually not liking you even more, right? Because again, you're annoying.
See, it's in the garden.
Honestly, I was at Lord's until 6 o'clock. Nobody was talking about JP Morgan or any involvement they may have in fossil fuels.
It was in the media today, this afternoon.
Honestly, I've not seen a word.
Read the reports in the BBC, read the reports in the Guardian.
Nothing.
What they're talking about is JP Morgan is the world's largest bank. £454 billion invested in fossil fuels since Paris, and they're sponsoring today. So I think it's really important. It reminds me of the rugby protest during the apartheid era. That's the same reaction. And people like you reacted to the rugby protest.
People like me.
I mean,
you don't know anything about what I thought about those protests.
People like you who are responding to this protest are responding to the rugby protest.
I would have people like you on to debate the serious issues. Absolutely. We do that every night on this show. We had a big serious debate last night about racism in Britain, for example. The people involved in that debate haven't spent the last few months running around wrecking everything. They're not a wrecking machine. They want to have a debate which actually leads to proper change. That's what I would like to see with your cause. But just stop.
Well, these people don't want to debate. The reason why they don't want to debate is because once they start a debate, their positions fall apart, right? I mean, I've done videos of some of these debates that take place in the UK where these young climate activists debate somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, right? Somebody that actually has ran the energy sector of the UK. And again, they just sound like idiots, right? They sound like idiots against people who actually know what they're talking about. And that's why they don't want to debate. They would rather be agents of chaos.
Stop Oil. Everyone now associates Just Stop Oil with just a bunch of morons wrecking people's lives.
That's what people like you call them. I would actually call them heroes because...
What's heroic about running on a cricket pitch and chucking orange paint around?
The same thing was said about the rugby protests and the apartheid era. Let's remember what's happening with the cricket world. You talk about the sacredness of the sport and the sacredness of the cricket pitch. Look at the cricketing world. Caribbean destroyed by hurricanes, Pakistan destroyed by floods, India extreme heat. What those cricketers are doing today is taking their side on the wrong side. They're batting on the wrong side. The cricketers should have stood up and stood beside the Just Stop Oil.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
No funding for new fossil fuels.
Now, this is where you lose me. There's a serious debate to be had about what's been going on in all those countries. I get it. I believe climate change is real. I believe it's dangerous. I believe in the core inherent essence of your protests, right? I just hate the methodology. And so I can tell you, do 99% of this country. They can't stand it.
And I can say back to you, I've been involved in this for 30 years. I spent 10 years local campaigning, 10 years in politics, Deputy Chair of the Liberal Democrats. Yeah. I've done campaigning, I've done petitions, I've done marches.
And now you're reduced to chucking paint around.
No, I haven't chucked paint around. But
you're supporting them.
I'm actually supporting because nothing else has worked. So please
well, nothing else is working because you can't do anything about it unless you go to China, right? Like I said at the beginning of this video, even if the UK reduces their emissions to, I guess, net zero, which is what they want, right? If the United States doesn't, don't matter, right? If you can't get China on board, if you can't get India on board, if you can't get the rest of the countries in the world on board, it doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters, okay? You're wasting your time. I'm trying to figure out what these people want to do about China. I never hear these people talk about how are you going to force China to come along with your agenda, right? That's what I want to know.
Tell me, we've tried politics.
Actually, you say nothing else has worked.
What can work?
The UK has one of the best records in the world in measures to combat climate change. That is an irrefutable fact. And if you deny that, you are actually denying the very thing that you accuse other people of doing, which is reality.
There are two things. Britain is better than the world in most countries in reducing the carbon emissions of our electricity system. Everything else, we're disastrous. And the most important thing about Britain, which links to today's protest and JP Morgan Bank, is we're one of the largest funders of new fossil fuels globally.
Okay, question for you. Why don't you go to China and India and Russia and pull these stunts there? Why is it only the safe places like the UK that Just Stop Oil chuck this stuff around at major sporting events and things that people love? Let me tell you why. Because there's a moral cowardice at the heart of what you do. It's a bit like Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg, you never see her in Beijing ranting away about the Chinese government. Even though the worst polluters in the world are the Chinese. So the people causing the real damage on pollution, none of your protesters have the gumption or the moral guts to go and wreck the lives of those people in those countries, because you know what would happen. You pick on the easy places who are doing the most to try and combat it.
Hang on,
and in the process, you piss off the entire country. I don't get the strategy.
Do you accept the point that Britain is responsible for 15% of new funding of fossil fuels globally, and secondly, we're responsible for over 50%
I'll tell you what I do accept.
I'll tell you what I do. Is that true or not?
Here's what I accept.
See, look at the deflection, bruh. When confronted directly, why don't you go to China? Why don't you go to Russia? Why don't you go to India? He don't want to answer that, right? He don't want to answer that. Even though, again, if you don't get those countries on board, you can't do anything about it. But again, these people deflect because they know what will happen. They know that they're only doing it in the West because they know that they have the freedom to do that. I'm not going to say rights because I don't think it's a right. Maybe, I mean, it is a right to protest, but I don't think that there's a right to protest the way they're doing. Like, you don't have a right to vandalize. You don't have a right to be an agent of chaos. But they only do it here because they know that the consequences, there are none, right? Again, if you started locking these people up, okay, throwing them in jail when they vandalize, when they destroy stuff, if you actually gave them real penalties for blocking traffic, they'd stop. And you know how you know they stop? Because places where they actually have real penalties, they don't go, right? They don't go. They stay away from those places. They're not showing up to Xi Jinping's palace because they know exactly what will happen. They'll be thrown in the same slave camp as the Uyghurs, right? That's what will happen. That's exactly what will happen.
Do you accept that's true?
Here's what I accept. I'm not going to quibble individual stats because I haven't got the information.
Really important stats.
Now, hang on. I haven't got that information in front of me. What I would say is, as a broad brushstroke, it is undeniable that the UK is doing more than most countries in the world who are of the prosperous countries, is doing more to combat climate change than most others.
Same as the United States, right? Same here. We're reducing our emissions, right? We're doing our part, right? For the most part. Compared to countries like China, we're doing our part. But again, woke activists say it's not enough, right? It's not enough.
That is a fact.
What I'm agreeing with you is that we're doing more on our electricity, our own 1%. But the City of London and our oil corporations are funding 50%
here's my advice.
Of global emissions.
Here's my advice.
So we have to protest.
Here's my advice. No, you don't.
It's a centre of the fossil fuel economy.
Come on shows like this and make your argument.
And
don't go and wreck people's lives.
Can you please invite us on with Morgan and Barclays and Shell?
All right, let me go to the final word to Geoffrey Boycott.
Yeah. So, again, when confronted about why don't you go to China, protest there, right? Crickets, right? Nothing. Deflection. Okay? I mean, these people, they really have been brainwashed into thinking that they're saving the world. And they're not doing anything but making everybody's lives a lot more difficult and making them more and more and more disliked. And honestly, again, it works against what they claim they're trying to accomplish. That's what happens with all these far left movements, okay? Over time, people see how extreme they are and they just work against what they actually claim that they're trying to do. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.